Hi everyone, my name is Kamakhalumaponya, Kantota Boza Yadi Boza, and thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel. I use this platform to inspire conversations so that you aspire to be better, not only in your career, but as well as your personal life. Like I said, I'm an aspiring chartered accountant, and one thing about all aspiring chartered accountants, we all faced with this major decision. Where am I going to do my articles? So, we're going to be talking about the things you need to consider before you sign for your articles. We're going to talk about where you should sign, how you should sign, and when you should sign. Okay, so let's start off with thinking about what kind of career would you like to have? Oftentimes, we don't think too far ahead when it comes to our accounting careers. We're only thinking about, I just want to get this degree. I just want to get my postgrad. I just want to get my CA. But I think it's important that we think about what kind of career would we like to have? Do we see ourselves working in corporate? Do we see ourselves working as consultants? Do we see ourselves being in the more traditional sense of a chartered accountant, or following a more modern, creative sense of a chartered accountant? Do we want to be in the office working, or would we like to use our chartered accounting career as a stepping stone to other things? The reason why I say this is because where you do your articles is where you gather the most information about a career, about an industry, about everything to do with the chartered accounting stream. And you would like to tailor it so perfectly to who you are and what you want that it feels as if you're learning the most out of it. For example, let's say I want to be a tax consultant. If I want to be a tax consultant, I need to try and find an articleship that will take me into a tax rotation. So you want to look at the different areas within accounting, what you enjoy about accounting, and where you see yourself going, and ensure that where you're signing up for articles is tailored to what you like and what kind of career you would like to have as well. Sometimes it's not always easy to know what kind of career you want to have until you actually step into articles. That's why articles is not a linear or a be all end all. You can always make changes afterwards. I say this as someone who hasn't yet started articles, but speaks from the perspective of mentors and other people who I know who have gone through the whole chartered accounting journey. And they always speak about how articles is just a place for learning. So you might have thought that maybe being an auditor or being a tax consultant is not for you. But then you go through your audit rotation and you realize, I love auditing. I love it more than anything. So you might want to stick to auditing, for example. And this is where you learn the most. So you'd like to go to a place that gives you a wide variety, that gives you an idea of what kind of career you'd like to have. Another thing you need to consider is, am I going tip or top? What does that actually mean? It means, are you going to be training within public practice? So this is generally going to your big four firms, going an accounting firm, auditor general, or your other small auditing firms, right? This is the journey you take. Then you'd think of top, which is training outside of public practice, which is going directly into business, going to consulting, going into banking, and other professions as well. Now, SAICA has even the playing field between tip and top, meaning whether or not you go auditing or you go banking, at the end of the day, both of us will be chartered accountants. Both of us will have the same qualities, or maybe not the exact same qualities, but we will have the competencies of what a chartered accountant should have at the end of the day. So regardless of which journey you take, at the end of the day, whether I go auditing, whether I go banking or any other industry, I will still end up as a chartered accountant with the same competencies as someone else. So they've moved away from the tip and top, but it's also quite helpful to think about, and moved more towards the competency framework Are you actually thinking critically? Are you able to solve business problems? Are you able to analyze financial statements? Are you able to? That's where they've moved. It's not all about what industry you're working in, but it's more about what competencies you have achieved throughout your traineeship. The only reason why I speak about tip and top is because some people have different interests over others. Going back to my first point, you want to go to a company that best suits what you are most interested in, right? So when you're thinking of going tip, for example, training within public practice, you want to know that in auditing, you get a wide range of companies that you're going into and understanding their business environments, right? So you're going into this company A, you're going to company B, you're going into multiple JSE listed, small companies, big companies, you're going into various sized industries as well. And therefore you get a lot more experience of different types of companies and understanding their working environments. So that's a really great benefit of going into your auditing space, because maybe you don't know what sector you'd like to work in. Going into auditing, the benefit is that you get to work in multiple sectors and you get a great understanding of a lot, right? When you go into banking, you are most likely sure you'd like to go into financial services, banking. You want to go into mining, you'd like to go into insurance, financial services. I think I've mentioned that already. And that is more if, for example, like me, I love management, accounting, and finance, and I see myself following that path a lot more. So my best bet is to go into training outside of public practice and to look for a company that specializes mainly in like management, accounting, and finance, because that's where I see my career going and that's where I see my interests lying as well. So that is the industry I'd like to work in as well. Another thing to consider when applying for articles is, what is the company culture you'd like to go into, right? Certain companies are always known for certain things. For example, within the Big Four, there's a Big Four firm that is known to be strict and prim and proper and competitive. There's another Big Four firm that is known to be light-hearted, yet they do the work when it needs to be done. There are different types of company cultures, and it's important you find a company culture that works for you. So you might prefer a company which is highly structured, slightly more on the stricter side of things. Or you might prefer a company where they're more laid back and relaxed, but when work needs to be done, it is done. So depending on what company culture you want, you might choose one company over the other. And the best way to do or to find out what the company culture is to actually go for VAC work, right? Every year, specifically at UCT, I'm not sure about other universities, but I'm sure other universities do it as well. They have a career fest. And every year, you will find at least 10 companies, at minimum 10 companies that are offering VAC work for accountants. You could do it at your Big Four firms. You could do it within banking, within insurance, within your small and medium-sized firms. You can go into as many VAC work opportunities as possible and find which company you enjoyed the most and sign up for their internship or articles as well. So maybe in first year, you're going into a Big Four firm. And second year, you decide, let me try a banking or let me try a consulting firm. Let me expose myself to as many industries as possible and as many company cultures as possible and find the one that works best for me. Okay, now we need to talk about how to apply for articles and other VAC work opportunities. Another thing, at UCT, you are blessed because Career Services is always sending out something, right? There's always a VAC work opportunity that is being sent out to you from these Big Four, from these banking, from these consulting firms. They want you at their graduate programs, at their VAC works. So during your June and December, make sure you're intentional about applying for these VAC works. Okay, if you're not in UCT, for example, Go onto websites such as ZA Bursaries or just search VAC work opportunities in accounting, and you will see multiple companies offering VAC work opportunities everywhere. So you're not limited to just whatever is shared with you at school. Go out and search for these opportunities as well. Now, the big question is, when should I actually sign for my articles? I'm going to put a disclaimer here. You must not sign too early or sign too late. Okay, what would I describe as too early? I'd describe signing too early as first year and maybe halfway into second year, and too late as middle of your honors year. Yeah, middle of PGDA, CTA might be slightly too late, because you don't want to sign too early before you actually understand what accounting is about, before you determine what you like and what kind of career you'd like to have. Maybe you sign to a company in first year and you have no interest, because in first year you don't actually have a great understanding of accounting, right? You learn the basics. But in second year, you are put into the deep end, learning about the 4 majors within accounting. So you don't want to sign too early where you don't actually know what you're studying, but you don't want to sign too late where you're left with the leftovers, right? You don't want to be signing in June, July of your CTA year, and you're just signing because you need a job and not signing because you actually want to go to that company. I hope I'm making sense. This does not apply to Tutuka students, because I know you guys have a different way of signing up for articles with Tutuka, and it also doesn't apply to people who have bursaries. Now, sometimes you are forced, quote unquote, forced to sign with the company early because they're funding your studies. And in that case, I find that's okay. It's actually a good thing, right? They are providing you the opportunity to go to university for free, or they're providing you the opportunity to go to university at a discounted rate, and they expect for you to work for them in the end. So if you're signed already because you have a bursary, you don't have to worry about when you need to sign, but think about it when applying for a bursary. But yes, those are the few tips I have thought of. Make sure you know what kind of industry or what kind of career you'd like to have. Think about whether or not you want to go in training in public practice, which is generally your auditing firms, the auditors general, small accounting firms, or you'd like to go outside of public practice, which is mainly your banking, consulting, insurance, financial services, right? So you need to think about which sectors would you like to work in. Then you need to think about what company culture would I like to go for. Do I want a slightly strict, competitive environment, or would I like to have a more laid back, yet disciplined environment? It is important you know the company culture, and you can only find out if you go for VAC work. And lastly, do not sign too early or too late. You want to give yourself the best opportunity to sign for articles. Just on that point again, some companies have specific times that they sign students. For example, within the banking sector, they only really sign students in their final year. So you want to make sure that in your final year, you're applying for these articles, right? So banking tends to have this cycle where you sign in your third year, or you begin your interviews in your third year, and then in your honors year is where you start to go for training, you start to get involved more into the company culture. So depending on what company, like I said, do your research, you're going into, they have specific times that they sign. Some companies, even within banking, for example, only allow you to sign if you have a degree, meaning they only allow you to sign once you're in your CTA PGDA year. So make sure you do your research to know about when you should apply for your articles. But that is all from me. I hope you know what you need to think about when applying for articles. Don't take this decision lightly. You're doing articles for 3 years. You want to make sure that wherever it is that you're going, you are gaining as much experience and as much knowledge as possible. And you want to have a good time while doing articles. You want to make sure you're not, unhappy or not content with where you are. So choose wisely, and the only way to choose wisely is to do your research. But from me, Kamkhela Maponya, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and please let me know what you considered when signing for your articles, or if you haven't signed for articles yet, please let me know why you haven't signed for articles. But yes, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.